The 2025 college football season is just around the corner, and these are my best and worst case scenarios for the Georgia Bulldogs this season. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, where we get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And as always, we are brought to you by our friends over at FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FANDUEL.com/SECU to get $250 in bonus bets today. Kickoff is just around the corner, and that means Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs will look to defend their title in Atlanta as SEC champions, and maybe more importantly, look to get back to the mountaintop and hoist the trophy as national champions. Guys, today we dive into my best case and worst case scenarios for the Georgia Bulldogs in this upcoming 2025 college football season. And guys, first, let's start with Georgia's schedule, because obviously the schedule goes a long way in determining what your best case and your worst case is, what your ceiling and floor for your season realistically is. Georgia will open up Saturday, August the 30th in non-conference play against Marshall. They then welcome Austin Peay to Athens as well in week 2 before finally diving into SEC play in week 3 at Tennessee, traveling to Rocky Top, a primetime matchup in the afternoon, 2:30 Central Time kickoff there against the Vols. Then after a bye week, you take on Alabama in Athens, Georgia, which will be certainly one of the games of the year. And this really establishes a trend. You might recall last year, Georgia had a ton of crazy road trips, right? They were going to some of the biggest and best venues throughout the college football season. Well, obviously, that turns. The home games at Sanford Stadium this year are absolutely bonkers. And again, it gets going with that Bama game to close out the month of September. And by the way, we already know this is a 6:30 Central Time kick. It is going to be truly a primetime night game under the lights at Sanford Stadium. Cannot wait for that one. You open up the month of October against the Kentucky Wildcats. Then you travel to Auburn. You welcome Ole Miss at home. Then after the bye week, you take on Florida in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party down there in Jacksonville. You then travel to Starkville to take on Mississippi State. Host the Texas Longhorns. Again, another massive game at Sanford Stadium. You'd imagine that's probably going to be another night game under the lights there in Athens. Then you host Charlotte in non-conference play and take on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in Atlanta, Georgia in a neutral site game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Obviously, the new contract with Georgia Tech, moving that game, I believe, when they play in Atlanta. It might be every single year. I don't really recall either way. I hate it because that game should be on campus. Either way, though, when you take a look at Georgia's schedule, certainly it's difficult yet again, right? But the thing that stands out again are those home games. Alabama at home, Ole Miss at home, Texas at home. Those are the 3 big ones that I think you look at. And, I mean, those are the ones that are really going to sway Georgia's season one way or the other, right? Those are the games they're going to have to find a way to win if they're going to compete and go back to Atlanta and defend their crown. At Tennessee, early going to be really tricky. Gunnar Stockton's first ever start on the road, really first SEC start ever. Going to Auburn, depending on what Auburn is, could be really, really tough. Florida with DJ Lagway in Jacksonville. We were at that game last year. That one came down to the wire. You'd probably expect more of the same. And Georgia Tech, I think, is going to be a really competent ACC foe this year. And listen, I know Georgia's dominated. It doesn't even really feel like much of a rivalry at this point. But in a rivalry game, you never know what may happen, right? So this Georgia schedule, it is tricky. It is daunting. But I think Kirby Smart and the Dogs would have it no other way. A lot of opportunity, obviously, to win some big games, make your statements, and really reaffirm, again, why we talk about Georgia football as being the creme de la creme, not just in the SEC, but all of college football. Guys, that being said, let's dive into it. My best case, worst case. Best case for the Georgia Bulldogs, I've got 11-1. I've mentioned on some other shows as well, talking about some other teams. I don't think anyone in the SEC is going undefeated this season. I think the days of undefeated seasons are all but over. Really not even just in the SEC, but college football as well, but certainly the SEC, where the gauntlet really still exists and the depth of the league shines every single week. I mean, guys, there's so many pitfalls on this schedule, right? At Tennessee, early's tricky. Texas speaks for itself. Bama speaks for itself. Florida's difficult. At Auburn's difficult. Like, this Georgia team could be really, really, really good. Think about this. Georgia went 10-2 last year and won the SEC title, right? So, I mean, just think about that, how difficult the league was. Like, I think what we saw last year, I think that's going to be the norm from here on out. Like, I think it's going to be chaos. I think it's going to be craziness because of the portal, because of NIL, because teams like a Georgia, as good as they are, aren't able to stack as much depth anymore and kind of hoard the talent. I think it leads to some more random results, right? You get Ole Miss too. Like, I mean, you just keep going down that list. There's just, I don't see any way Georgia's getting through this season unscathed. And if they do, man, I got nothing but respect for Kirby as it is. I will tip my freaking cap. I will come right on here on these airwaves and I will eat my crow and I'll be happy for the Dogs. I got a lot of friends that are dog fans. I'll be happy for you. But I think the best case realistically is 11-1. Like I mentioned, I don't have a team in the SEC with the best case of 12-0 because I don't think anybody in this conference is going undefeated, even in a best case scenario. Now, what does the best case scenario look like for Georgia? It starts at the quarterback position, like for so many other teams. Gunnar Stockton shows a real command of the offense, right? I think that was the one thing you saw in the bowl game against Notre Dame that you didn't love. Maybe looked a little bit flustered. He had just taken over, obviously came late in that SEC title. Again, showed the steady hand. Don't get me wrong. And I thought he played fine in the Notre Dame game, but got to be a little bit sharper, got to be a little bit better when it comes to reading defenses, reading coverages, understanding pressures. And I think from what I've been told from people, he has made significant strides in that area and has really taken ownership of this is his football team. Heck, Kirby brought him to SEC Media Days. So best case, Gunnar Stockton is that dude under center. The offensive line takes a massive step forward. And the running game finishes well above 15th in the SEC. I mean, that's just flat out, right? Nate Frazier and that group of backs back there are able to get a running game going to help out your quarterback. Also, your receivers are significantly better. I mean, they were awful last year, right? They couldn't catch the football to save their lives. You completely revamp that room with guys like Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas. And, you bring back a Dylan Bell. There's other guys as well that you bring back and you added. Colby Young should be back. So, I mean, that room is much better, and Gunnar Stockton actually gets help around him. But it does start at quarterback. Gunnar Stockton is that commander, takes care of the football, and gives Georgia enough at the quarterback position. Defensively, guys, in a best case, Georgia just does what they do on defense. I mean, it's Kirby Smart's defense. That's a side of the ball I don't necessarily worry about a ton. I mean, guys, you look at that front seven, even though you might have lost some guys, it's just 5-star on 5-star on 5-star. So I guess in a best case scenario, everybody lives up to their potential. Everybody lives up to the hype and the expectations, obviously. It really, to me, Georgia comes down to the offense. Like, I think the defense is going to give you a really, really high floor. The offense is probably going to control your ceiling, and I think Gunnar Stockton specifically going to control your ceiling. But I think if it all clicks, I think best case 11-1. I think between Texas and Alabama, throw in, again, Florida, throw in the road trip at Auburn, Tennessee, you're going to drop a game, guys. I just think, again, the league is just too good. You are going to lose to someone, but I do think you can get to 11-1. Worst case for the Georgia Bulldogs, I've got 8-4. And in this, again, it's a worst case for a reason. Like I mentioned, these are not predictions. It's my ceiling and floor. In a worst case scenario, Gunnar Stockton's just not the answer. Gunnar Stockton's not the answer. Maybe we're switching quarterbacks between Stockton and Puglisi. And I do think it's a schedule. Listen, if it's a schedule where if you do not get the type of quarterback play that you need, right? And it's funny, though, in saying this, I'm saying this, and Georgia didn't get great quarterback play last year and won 10 games. So take into account. So it'd probably be more than just the quarterback. But if Gunnar Stockton is not cut out for the job and you still can't run the football, right? The running game's not there. Receivers, for whatever reason, just continue to drop passes and don't make the impact expected, right? And maybe you lost some key guys defensively that make you take a step back. Maybe the schedule could bite you. You could lose to Bama. You could lose to Texas. You could lose to Florida. You could lose to an Auburn, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of you could lose to Georgia Tech. There are pitfalls on this schedule. Granted, again, do I think Georgia's going 8-4 most likely? No. But it's a worst case scenario for that reason. Again, I think the offense would really just have to implode, and Georgia's defense at some point just gets worn down, right? And they just can't carry the football team like maybe you would hope. So again, worst case, I think that's all going wrong. Worst case, I've got 8-4. A really difficult schedule could prove to be daunting and knock Georgia out of the playoff conversation and certainly out of the talks of Atlanta. So, guys, best case for the Dogs, I've got 11-1. Worst case, I've got 8-4. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Would love to hear your thoughts. What's your best case, worst case for the Georgia Bulldogs in the 2025 college football season? Guys, that's going to do all for me. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in as always. Make sure you check out our friends over at FanDuel because, as always, we are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook is here to help you make every moment more. The app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. If you already have an account, FanDuel Sportsbook offers great promotions every day to all users with things like Profit Boost tokens, new features like Parlay Hub, build your own same-game parlay, or choose from one of the popular SGPs already made for you in the Parlay Hub. If you haven't signed up yet, go to FanDuel.com/SECU to learn more and to get your $250 deposit bonus when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, FanDuel.com/SECU and get into the action with offers you won't want to miss, like that $250 deposit bonus when you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com/SECU. Check them out and get in on the action ahead of this college football season. Guys, that's going to do all for me. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in as always. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. Till next time, I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we will catch you on the other side.